Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
Hare Krishna
Mataji.
Mataji.
Hare
You had your orals, right? Hare Krishna. Did you all do the orals today?
Yes, Mataji, we did a shloka test.
Right. How was it?
I think it was good. I hope we passed.
I'm going to recite the verses.
No, Mataji, please.
We'll get started with today's two verses. Hmm. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय So we are reading today 8th verse and 9th verse of Sri Ishopanishad. So before that, we can have a quick recap of what we learned up until now. Anybody remembers any points? Yesterday also we discussed the recap. Anything from Sri Ishopanishad that you have learned so far?
The Lord is the complete whole, and whatever emanates from himself is so complete and perfect.
Nice. Yes, that was first mantra.
And whatever even though complete things comes from him, he's still complete.
Right. That is the invocation. What is mantra 1? You all recited the verses.
We have to use the necessary things according to our quota.
Yeah. The Lord is a proprietor of all the universe, and there is some quota set aside for us, and we should be cognizant of that and only consider taking that much of quota, not encroaching on any other's property. It's not just related to the property that we talk about, the close property, but there are very subtle elements that we need to be aware of, that we should not encroach on others. Then, the third verse, a third mantra, a second mantra. Yeah, second mantra. If you go on living in that consciousness, you can continue to live for hundreds of years, right? A third mantra, if you don't have that consciousness, then you will glide down to the darkest region of ignorance. Then comes the next section. That was the divinity of the Lord, the first section. Invocation and the two verses, 3 verses, or the first two mantras. Sorry, first 3 mantras plus invocation defines the divinity of the Lord. Then comes the next section, which is the vision of the Mahabhagavat, how to look at the Lord, right? So there are 4 verses, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Today we going to do the 8th verse and enter into the next section, which is the 9th verse, which talks about the Vidya and Avidya section. So coming back to the second section, which is the vision of the Mahabhagavat, we had 4, 5, 6, 7 verses that we completed yesterday. Anybody remembers from the 4th and 5th? You can just say the definitions also.
Hare Krishna Mataji, was the fourth verse on the killer of the soul? So when we do things that are detrimental to our bhakti, even though the soul does not die, we're in a sense degrading ourselves.
Third, that was third. That was
Oh, third.
Atmaha. Atmaha was in the third. Now, fourth verse is the second section, which talks about the second section, which is the Mahabhagavat vision. How the Mahabhagavat devotee looks at the Lord, where the Lord has got inconceivable potencies. The Lord is fixed, yet he is moving very swiftly, right? And he is swifter than mind. He even controls the devatas. That's the inconceivable potency of the Lord. And the fifth verse is the seeming contradictions. The seeming contradictions that are there in the Lord. He moves but yet does not move. He is far away yet very near. He is within everything and without everything. That is the inconceivable potency of the Lord. The sixth verse is seeing the Lord everywhere. Right? Systematically seeing the Lord everywhere. And there are three types of devotees: Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama. Right? Yesterday we saw that. But our vision is to get to that next level, able to see the Lord in everywhere. And then the qualitative oneness, no illusion, no lamentation. If you look at all the living entities as a spirit souls, spiritual parts of the Lord, then there is no illusion for that devotee who looks at it. So this book is talking about from a devotee's perspective. A devotee is speaking this book, basically, from their perspective. So it is not all that impersonal. Although it has the language that covers the personality of the Lord in a different way, it doesn't very specifically describe the personality of the Lord. Yet there are qualities that define that Lord is personal. So that is how the Shrutis are, right? Shrutis are very flowery languages, very decorative, in the sense like someone can recite them, very decorative, very flowery, and showing the scholarship of the devotees. It is very scholarly. So it doesn't get to the point very quickly. So it's covered. So it gets to the details of the personality of the Lord in a very different way. Although still, that is why this book. Why this book? Because it is very it describes at the end, the Lord is a person. And the devotee is the one who is praying to that personality. Right? So the seventh verse talks about, if you look at the spiritual spark of the living entities, there won't be any illusion to that living entity or that Mahabhagavat who looks at, there is no shoka, there is no moha. So that's how they look at it, the Lord's form. So that was the seventh verse. Now we're entering into the eighth verse, which talks about some of the qualities of the Lord, which becomes again very, very personal information, yet not directly talking to the personal aspects, but definitely talking towards them. So let's go into the verse and see. I will recite. It doesn't, the meters are very different. We'll see if we can repeat. Saparyayat Chukramakaayam Avranam Krishnaviram Shuddhamapapaviddam Kavir Manishi Paribhu Swayambur Yata Tatyatortaman Yadadacha Chashvatibhya Samabhya Saparyayat Chukramakaaya Avarnam Ashnavaram Shuddhamapapaviddam Kavir Manishi Paribhu Swayambhur Yata Tatyatortan Yadadyat Shasvatabhya Samabhya. Devi, would you like to repeat?
Sure, Mataji.
Saparyakachukramakayamavranam
Saprayagachukram akayam avrayanam
Ashnaviram Shuddhamapapaviddam
ashnaviram shuddham apapam pidam
Kavir Manishi Paribu Swayambhur
kavir manishi paribu swayambur
Yata Tatyatortan
yata tatyato ratan
Vyadadat Shaswatabhya Samabhyaha.
yatadat chasvati biya samabiya.
Anyone would like to volunteer to repeat?
I can try, Mataji. I can follow your lead.
Sapari. Sapari. Why am I getting? Mudderman was. Sapari. Kramakam.
Saparyak chakuram akayam avaram.
Ashnaviram Papaviddam.
Ashnaviram shuddham apapaviddham.
Kavir Manishi Paribu Swayambhur.
Kavir manishi paribhur swayambhur.
Yata Tatyatortan Yada Shaswatabhya Samabhyaha.
Yata yathadya athran vyadhakcha chakshaya bhiya samabhya.
Yeah, we'll pause there. Synonyms: Saha, that person. Paryayagat, no, must know in fact. Shukram, the omnipotent. Akayam, unembodied. Avranam, without reproach. Ashnavaram, without veins. Shuddham, antiseptic. Apapaviddam, prophylactic. Kavi, omniscient. Manishi, philosopher. Paribhu, the greatest of all. Swayambhu, self-sufficient. Yatha tatatyato, just in pursuance of arthan, desirables. Vyadadat, awards. Saswatabhya, immemorial. Samabhya, time. Translation: such a person must factually know the greatest of all, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminated, the self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time immemorial. So here it talks about such a person. Who is this person? Anybody can take a guess who this person is?
Mahabhagavat?
Yeah, right. So the person who we were referring to all the while from 4th verse onwards. That is the first person who factually knows the greatest of all, who the personality of Godhead. And what are the qualities of that personality of Godhead? Is unembodied. Akayam. First, Shukram, omnipotent. Akayam, unembodied. Avranam, without reproach. Asnavaram, without veins. Shuddham, antiseptic. Apapaviddam, prophylactic. Kavi, omniscient. Manishi, philosopher. Pari, the greatest of all. Swayambhu, self-sufficient. Yatha, tatatyata, arthan, vedadat, swasvatabhya, samabhya. So this is that person who we refer to as Mahabhagavat should know that greatest person, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminated, self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time immemorial. So here, if you look at these are the qualities of the Lord from here onwards: embodied, unembodied, and so on. These are the qualities. So if you look at, these are more oriented towards unembodied, means someone can say it doesn't have the Lord's form, a form to the Lord. So this is the Shruti, right? Where it is more Jnana oriented. They try to make the personality of Godhead as an impersonalist. Yet this devotee who is speaking knows that the Lord is the person, and he doesn't have a material embodiment. His body is unembodied, means akayam. We'll get to that. But let's go to the other qualities. Shukram. Shukram means the omnipotent. Omniscient or omnipotent. Who is omnipotent? He knows. Omnipotent means he has got every potency in the world, in the universe. That means he can do things that the others can't do, and he can do with one thing everything else. Like anybody can guess a verse from Sri Brahma Samhita?
Yashita Mataji has recited that a few times. Sakalendriya Vittimanti Pashyanti Kanti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigraha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Can anybody recite? Yashita, you can recite? Looks like you know that.
अङ्गानि यस्य सकलेन्द्रियवृत्तिमन्ति पश्यन्ति कान्ति कलयन्ति चिरं जगन्ति आनन्दचिन्मयसदुज्ज्वलविग्रहस्य गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि.
Yeah. So we recite this every day in the morning during Darshanarti, where we speak about the Lord's angas, Sakalendriya Vittimanti. That is, the Lord can do one activity with the other. He can eat just by glancing. He can walk with his hands. He can talk with his ears, for example. So those are the one anga doing the function of the other anga. That is why he is omniscient. Omnipotent. He can do many things. He is omnipotent in that way. And he is akayam. Kayam means body. Akayam means without body. So this is that verse that can say the Lord that doesn't have a body. But we also know what is karma. Karma means simple.
Actions.
Actions. Work. Efforts. Whatever we do. Actions. So when we add, please unmute yourself. When we add a to that word karma, what does it become? Without actions. That means we are not generating any reaction to that action. So when you add something to A, it becomes like glorified rather than just that work, right? Akarma means without generating any karma. Similarly, kayam is the body. Akayam means not having the body. It is not having material body. There is a reaction that we get in akarma, which is what? Spiritual reaction. That is, we are getting closer to the Lord, right? In akarma. We are getting devotional service. Similarly, akayam means it's not like not having the body, but not having the material body. So Lord's body is spiritual, is unembodied. Okay. So then next is avranam. Avranam means without reproach. That is, there are no faults in the Lord. Avranam is without reproach. That means there is not faulty. Anything that he does is not faulty. So what does it mean? So he plays with the gopis, and yet there is no fault touched to him. How? If you look at his, because the gopis are his internal reflections. They are his internal Swarupa Shaktis. So if one is only interacting with their own Swarup Shakti, what is the problem in it? What is wrong in it? So that is how he is Avranam. Another example to look at. A small baby looks at his own reflection in the mirror and he plays with it. Not knowing who that is, they starts playing. What is wrong in that? It is so cute, isn't it? People will, can only be pleased, amused by how the baby is. So there's no wrong in it when the baby plays with his own reflection. So similarly, these gopis are the internal reflection, internal energy of the Lord. So if he is playing with them, then there is no reproach. There's no fault in it. Asnavaram, without veins. What is that? Veins is any material things that we have, which is made of, right? We are made of these, all the elements in the body, veins, bones, nerves, and whatnot. And Lord is not made of any of that. His body is asnaviram, without veins. That means he's not materially, nothing material can touch the Lord. So his body is like that. Shuddham. Shuddha means antiseptic. That's what Prabhupada is. Shuddha means it is pure. He is pure. Pure and uncontaminated. So these are the two, is the purest of all pure things in the world, antiseptic, Shuddham. Apapa Viddham is prophylactic, which is where Prabhupada is defining it as here in the purport, and the translation is uncontaminated. Uncontaminated. When the sun passes through even the filthy places, sun doesn't get contaminated. The place gets purified, in the sense like all the wetness get evaporated. Even on the very dirtiest surfaces, even the trash bins, urinary places, sun passes and it becomes dried up, right? Is sun getting any contaminated by that? No. So if sun was part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is this much of potency, how much is the potency of the Lord? So he is uncontaminated. And he is Kavi. Kavi means omniscient. He knows everything, past, present, and future, of all living entities, of all universes, at all times. So he is Kavi. He is omniscient. He is able to know what we are thinking, and he is able to remember our prayers and award them accordingly. He can award all our activities as per our desires. That's the last point. We'll get to that. But omniscient is he knows everything, past, present, and future. And as a philosopher, Manishi, philosopher meaning he is the one who has described all these Vedas. He is the one who has written all these Vedas. All the Vedas come from him. And everything is emanating from him. So he's a philosopher in that sense. He's a Paribu. He's the greatest of all. No one is the greatest beyond him. He's the greatest. He can lift the mountain, Govardhan Hill, and he can destroy the demons at a very young age. Very, very, as an infant, toddler also he can destroy the miscreants, the demons. He can lift the Govardhan Hill on a small little finger. Swayambhu is self-sufficient. He doesn't need anybody else for making him his Atma Rama. Self-sufficient is Atma Rama. He is very satisfied. He is Swayambhu. So the devotees are also Atma Rama in one sense, because they satisfy the all satisfied Lord. And they derive their satisfaction. They derive satisfaction in satisfying the all satisfied Lord. So in that sense, the devotees are also Atma Rama. And Yatha Tatyatha Arthan Vedadat Saswatabhya Swayam Samapya. That is, who has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time immemorial. The meaning is very simple, but the word is very hard in Sanskrit to even say it. So that means he has been fulfilling the desires of everyone. If one wants to become a devotee of the Lord, and to that has desires, aspirations, which are worthiest aspirations, Lord fulfills those desires as well. If you want to become a devotee of the Lord and develop devotional service, which are the worthiest aspirations, Lord fulfills those. And if someone doesn't want to understand or doesn't want to believe in the Lord, if that is their desire, Lord also fulfills their desires. And this has been happening not now, but from this universe, whenever it has come into existence, time immemorial. From our perspective, we are related to this universe. So this universe's relativity is time immemorial for us. Right? So from that time onwards, he's been fulfilling our desires. So let's go into the purport and read it. Any volunteer?
Shall I read, Mataji?
Go ahead.
Here is a description of the transcendental and eternal form of the absolute personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is not formless. He has his own transcendental form, which is not at all similar to the forms of the mundane world. The forms of the living entities in the world are embodied in material nature, and they work like any material machine. The anatomy of a material body must have a mechanical construction with veins and so forth, but the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord has nothing like veins. It is clearly stated here that he is unembodied, which means there is no difference between his body and his soul, nor is he forced to accept a body according to the laws of nature as we are. In materially conditioned life, the soul is different from the gross embodiment and the subtle mind. For the Supreme Lord, however, there is never any such difference between him, his body, and mind. He is the complete whole, and his mind and body, and he himself are all one and the same. Hare Krishna.
On the material, please, notice. On the material platform, there is a difference between the spirit and the body, which is made of gross elements and subtle elements. So that's why when the material body gets finished, the spirit soul gets removed from the body, the gross body becomes dissolved, right? But the subtle body goes from one to the other because there is difference between the material and the spiritual. So the subtle body takes it takes a different form in the next destination. So that is why we can say there is difference between the living entities and the Lord. Whereas the Lord's body, there is no difference between his body and his soul. His Satchidananda Vigraha. And there is no difference between his. So he's complete whole and everything is same for him, the body and the soul. So that's how we can understand. Next, someone read.
Yeah, I can read. In the Brahma Samhita 5.1, there is a similar description of the Supreme Lord. He is described there as Satchidananda Vigraha, which means that he is the eternal form, fully representing transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss. As such, he does not require a separate body or mind as we do in material existence. The Vedic literature clearly states that the Lord's transcendental body is completely different from ours. Thus, he is sometimes described as formless. This means that he has no form like ours and that he is devoid of a form we can conceive of. In the Brahma Samhita 5.32, it is further stated that with each and every part of his body, he can do the work of the other senses. This means that the Lord can walk with his hands, accept things with his legs, see with his hands and feet, eat with his eyes, etc. In the Shruti mantras, it is also said that although the Lord has no hands and legs like ours, he has a different type of hands and legs by which he can accept all that we offer him and run faster than anyone. These points are confirmed in the 8th mantra through the use of words like Shukram, omnipotent.
So we learned that from the beginning that Lord is omnipotent because he can do one function with the other organ of the body that he has. With the hands, he can walk. With the eyes, he can eat. That's why when we offer food, he glances it. Although we offer and nothing changes in the quantity of the food. From the food that was offered hot probably becomes cold, but nothing changes. That doesn't mean the Lord has not eaten it. He has glanced it. Again, he reciprocates with your devotion. How much devotion you put, that much he will reciprocate, and he just has to glance it and it becomes purified and he has eaten it. So that is how he can do. That is Shukram, omnipotent. And in the Akayam is, we learned that from Brahma Samhita 5.1, which is Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karana. His body is Satchit and Anand, Satchidananda Vigraha. So he is a Vigraha which is consist of Satchit and Ananda. Truth, eternality, and complete bliss. So that's how we can understand those two. Then and Prabhupada is going to describe further. Yeah, go ahead. Someone read,
Can I read, Mataji?
please.
The Lord's worshipful form, Achra Vigraha, which is installed in temples by authorized acharyas who have realized the Lord in terms of the Mantra 7, is not different from the original form of the Lord. The Lord's original form is that of Sri Krishna, and Sri Krishna expands himself into an unlimited number of forms, such as Baldev, Rama, Narsimha, and Varaha. All of these forms are one and the same personality of Godhead. Similarly, the Archa Vigraha, worshipped in temples, is also an expanded form of the Lord. By worshipping the Archa Vigraha, one can at once approach the Lord, who accepts the service of a devotee by his omnipotent energy. The Archa Vigraha of the Lord descends at the request of the Acharyas, the holy teachers, and works exactly in the original way of the Lord by the virtue of the Lord's omnipotence. Foolish people who have no knowledge of the Sri Ishopanishad or any of the other Shruti mantras consider the Archa Vigraha, which is worshipped by pure devotees, to be made of material elements. This form may be seen as material by the imperfect eyes of foolish people or Kanishta Adhikaris, but such people do not know that the Lord, being omnipotent and omniscient, can transfer matter into spirit and spirit into matter as he desires. Hare Krishna.
And yet, the Lord doesn't have a material body. And yet, he appears in the world with the material elements. That is why, how and why does he do? Not how. He does it because of his causeless mercy to the devotees who are in the material world, who are not yet purified, yet they are trying to get to the Lord. And because they are not yet purified, that doesn't mean they are left bereft with anything. So then Lord assumes a form which is not different from himself in the material elements. What are the different material elements that the Lord appears in the material world in the form of a deity? 8 in number. Anybody can guess?
5 elements, Mataji.
Huh? 8 elements.
Okay.
The Lord appears in the Archa Vigraha form. Okay. Earth, like clay. We have deities made of clay. We have deities made of wood. Daru Brahma, Lord Jagannath. Then we have deities made of metal. Deities made of jewels. Deities made of paint. Deities made of
Rock.
stone. Yeah. Then made of mind, made in the mind. And one more. We covered earth, we covered wood, we covered rock, we covered metal, jewel,
Paint,
And
mind. Last one. Maybe one. You can check it out. So there were those.
sand, right?
Huh?
Sand.
Sand. Yeah.
I think that
Clay probably sand.
wouldn't earth and sand be the same, Mataji?
Huh?
Wouldn't earth and sand be the same thing? Like earth means mud, sand, the same thing, right?
Yeah. Maybe water. We can check it. I don't know why we are having this echo today. Okay. So the Lord appears very mercifully for the devotee's sake, and he appears by the request of the authorized priests, teachers, acharyas, who listens to their request and appears in the material form, so that the devotees can worship him, and is non-different. He does all his omnipotent. He is omnipotent, so he can appear in the material forms. That there's no stopping for him. If he is omnipotent, that means he can appear in material things also. And he can perform all those functions out of this material Akshavigraha. And he can reciprocate with the devotees in that way. So that is his omnipotence and omniscience. He can come from the spiritual world into the material world. He can move from here back to there. So he can do whatever. He's omnipotent and omniscient. Okay, let's get to the next paragraph.
I can read Mataji.
Yes.
In the Bhagavad Gita 9.11 to 12, the Lord regrets the fallen condition of men with little knowledge who deride him because he descends like a man into the world. Such poorly informed persons do not know the omnipotence of the Lord. Thus, the Lord does not manifest himself in full to the mental speculators. He can be appreciated only in proportion to one's surrender to him. The fallen condition of the living entities is due entirely to the forgetfulness of their relationship with God.
What is this month? Verses 11 to 12? Fools deride me when I appear. Avajananti mamuda manushim tanumashitam. Param bhavo ajananto mama bhutva maheshwaram. Fools don't understand me when I descend in the material form, in the human form. They're not my transcendental nature, the Supreme Lord of all that be. And those who are thus bewildered and attracted by the demonic and atheistic views, in the deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, for fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. That is, Mogasha Moga Karmano, Moga Jnana Vichetasaha, Rakshasi Masurin Chaiva, Prakriti Mohini Shita. So they are bewildered. They don't know. They cannot understand because they have not understood. They think that Lord has taken the form of a human being and is just like us. Maybe a little more has some magic powers. They don't understand. So it's coming from the same point of omniscient and omnipotent. Yeah, next paragraph.
I can read, Mataji.
Go ahead.
In this mantra, as well as in many other Vedic mantras, it is clearly stated that the Lord has been supplying goods to the living entities from time immemorial. A living being desires something, and the Lord supplies the object of that desire in proportion to one's qualification. If a man wants to be a high court judge, he must acquire not only the necessary qualifications but also the consent of the authority who can award the title of the high court judge. The qualifications in themselves are insufficient for one to occupy the post. It must be awarded by some superior authority. Similarly, the Lord awards enjoyment to living entities in proportion to their qualifications, but good qualifications in themselves are not sufficient to enable one to receive awards. The mercy of the Lord is also required.
Which point is this? I think it's the last point that he has been fulfilling the desires of everyone since time immemorial. So we having just a desire doesn't helps. We need to deserve also. Just as I quote Judge's son, if he wants to become like his father, High Court judge himself, doesn't work like that. He has to qualify himself. And he has to get the certificate from the concerned authorities. So that is how it is. So if they can ask anything, but Lord will fulfill based on someone's qualification. That's a mercy. And also, he will award the spiritual desires and he will also fulfill the material desires. That's the mercy of the Lord. Then next. Ordinarily, the living beings does not know what to ask from the Lord, nor which post to seek. When the living being comes to know his constitutional position, However, he asks to be accepted into the transcendental association of the Lord in order to render transcendental loving service unto him. Unfortunately, living beings under the influence of material nature ask for many other things, and they are described in the Bhagavad Gita 241 as having divided or splayed intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is one, but mundane intelligence is diverse. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7:530 to 31, it is stated that those who are captivated by the temporary beauties of external energy forget the real aim of life, which is to go back to Godhead. Forgetting this, one tries to adjust things by various plans and programs, but this is like chewing what has been already chewed. Nonetheless, the Lord is so kind that he allows a forgetful entity to continue in this way without interference. Thus, this mantra of Sri Ishopanishad uses the very appropriate word yata tatatyataha, indicating that the Lord rewards the living entities just in pursuance of their desires. If a living being wants to go to hell, the Lord allows him to do so without interference. And if he wants to go back home, back to Godhead, the Lord helps him. Yeah, so this is the last point, where the living entities, they don't know what to ask. So they ask according to their conditioning, not according to their constitution. So once they ask according to their condition, which is very unfortunate, as per Shri Prahlad Maharaj in 7:5:30 to 31, he prays to Lord Krishna, Lord Nrsimhadev. His prayers are described. In that he says, these living entities, Matirna Krishne Parata Svatova, Ito Vibhatyate, some words at the end he says, Charvitam Charmanana. They are just chewing the chewed. They are just, because just like the camel, it chews and keeps it in the mouth. And then he brings it out and starts chewing, right? That is how it eats. So what is the pleasure? It derives its own pleasure, but we know from that, what has been chewed, what is there, any rasa is coming out of it? No. But still they're going on because they are forgetful of Krishna. So this is how they don't know, and they are asking for some things which are temporary and not benefiting them. Still, Lord fulfills them. If he wants that, he fulfills it because that is their desire. But then there is process how one can fulfill or purify their desires. The purification of the desires, it happens. Lord also awards those worthy aspirations and desires. So according to one's desire, ethamam prapatyante, the Lord reciprocates with the living entity and does not interfere. That is the free will the living entity said. He doesn't interfere with the free will, but it supplies everything for the living entities to live and to become progressively elevated. Like all the food grains he gives, the sadhus he gives, the shastra he gives, and the guru he sends. So all these he provides, yet he keeps very, very uninterfering in what the living entities want to do. Although shastras are guiding principles, they guide, but he doesn't interfere. That is how unbiased he is. He's non-interfering because there's nothing beyond him. If he starts like parents do they interfere with the living entities' desires. They try to intervene and navigate them in the right way, which is the parent will do. Just like that, the Lord supplies all that principles, the guidance, the direction. And yet, if the living entity says, no, I want to do this, what would the parent do? Okay, fine, go ahead. Like, although it is not the right path you're treading, but if you want to do it, go ahead and explore, try it out yourself. Just like the fan, when it is running, the mother tells the child, don't put your hand in the finger in the fan when it is running. Yet the child wants to experiment and experience what happens if I put. What can the mother do at that time? You go ahead and test it. You'll get your finger hurt. So that is how it is, right? Even in the ordinary things, we can see how much can we influence anyone. We can give them the direction. We can set the path. We can tell what is right, what is wrong. But yet they want to go on that path. that nobody can help that. The Lord will take them there and bring them back. After some time, then they have exhausted. They have ripened very much in the sun and they are very ripe now. They are ready to take the instruction. After going through so much, after experiencing so much, then they realize this is not worth it. They have chewed it enough. That has been already chewed. So then they say it's not worth it. So let me come back. Then they are ready to receive it. When they are ready, Lord is also ready. He'll supply everything that they require. And then the path back to Godhead starts. Yeah, continue someone.
I can read, Mataji.
Go ahead.
God is described here as Paribhu, the greatest of all. No one is greater than or equal to him. Other living beings are described here as beggars who ask goods from the Lord. The Lord supplies the things the living entities desire. If the entities were equal to the Lord in potency, if they were omnipotent and omniscient, there would be no question of their begging from the Lord, even for so-called liberation. Real liberation means going back to Godhead. Liberation as conceived of by an impersonalist is a myth, and begging for sense gratification has to continue eternally unless the beggar comes to his spiritual senses and realizes his constitutional position.
Yeah.
I do have a question, Mataji, I can ask later, related to this and the last paragraph.
Go ahead, ask.
So, is there a reason that Prabhupada is using living entities, not human beings? So, living entities covers everything like trees, animals, all that. So, should we understand all this in the terms of non-human living entities also? And if not, then why does Prabhupada make it overarching?
Yeah. Forgetfulness of Krishna is where we are, right? Not only for human beings. When the human beings glide down, where do they go? They go into the animal kingdom. And if they continue to glide down, they may even go into even lower living entities such as trees, right? Their forgetfulness of Krishna's position, that's why they are going down. So it's applicable for all living entities. Forgetfulness, they've forgotten even more. The ones that are gliding down, becoming, say, dogs and cats, they've forgotten Krishna in the current human life and then they have glided down, right? So how it is all encompassing in that sense.
But the animals don't have any desires, right? Or is it before they take on the body, the soul has some desires?
Right. Before they became animal, there was something else, right? There's a transmigration constantly happening. So after they have lost their powers, they have lost their whatever, just like the noose that is tied to the animal and to the pole. When the animal is very arrogant and doesn't listen, the noose is very short, just to the pole and standing there. You have to stand there. Once the animal becomes little more listening, following the instruction of the master, then the noose is released little more. So it can roam about the pole little more. And when the animal is totally controlled, doesn't do anything harmful to anyone, always listens to the master, is let loose even further. So that is how it is. So if you are able to hear the instructions, follow the instructions, you are given a better chance to continue to follow the instructions and more. But if that is reduced, then your ability to take those decisions and make those choices becomes lesser and lesser. So from there, it is glided down into the lower. From there, it can continue to glow down. From there, no karma, right? They go through the transmigration from one to the next. So that's how it is very dangerous. So when we come down, we don't know when we're going to come back. Becomes very dangerous. That's why we need to be very vigilant about this. This is like a razor sharp. It can cut us, or it can, when we are not attentive, it can even cut us, the blade. Otherwise, it can do its job. Devotional service is like that. You'll be very, very attentive.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the Lord is the greatest of all. That means he is no one is equal to him. So if the impersonalists say the Lord is doesn't have any potency, doesn't have a body, doesn't do anything great, that means you are bringing them to yourself. And in that state, you're asking the Lord for liberation because I want to be formless just like the Lord, right? You're formless, I want to be like that. So they're bringing down the position of the Lord, yet they are begging from the Lord. How can the Lord, who same as you, can give you the liberation, can give you something as a benediction? That's not possible, right? You need to, that's wrong. So if you bring the Lord's position same as your position and yet ask the Lord as a beggar, there's no good. That's what it is. Yeah, last paragraph, someone.
Only the Supreme Lord is self-sufficient. When Lord Krishna appeared on earth 5,000 years ago, he displayed his full manifestation as the personality of Godhead through his various activities. In his childhood, he killed many powerful demons such as Aghasura, Bakasura, and Satakasura. There was no question of his having acquired such power through any extraneous endeavor. He lifted Govardhan Hill without even practicing weightlifting. He danced with the gopis without social restriction and without reproach. Although the gopis approached him with the paramour's feelings of love, the relationship between the gopis and Lord Krishna was worshipped even by Lord Chaitanya, who was a strict sannyasi and rigid follower of disciplinary regulations. To confirm that Lord is always pure and uncontaminated, Sri Ishopanishad describes him as Suddham, antiseptic, and Apapa Vidham, prophylactic. He is antiseptic in the sense that even an impure thing can become purified just by tossing him. The word prophylactic refers to the power of his association, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, sloka 30 to 31. A devotee may appear to be Sudurachara, not well behaved in the beginning, but he should be accepted as pure because he is on the right path. This is due to the prophylactic nature of the Lord's association. The Lord is also apapa with them because sin cannot touch him. Even if he acts in a way that appears to be sinful, such actions are all good, for there is no question of his being affected by sin. Because in all circumstances he is Suddham, most purified. He is often compared to the sun. The sun extracts moisture from many untouchable places on the earth, yet it remains pure. In fact, it purifies obnoxious things by virtue of its sterilizing powers. If the sun, which is a material object, is so powerful, then we can hardly begin to imagine the purifying strength of the all-powerful Lord. Hare Krishna.
So yeah, Apapaviddham and Shuddham are described in this. All powerful. Self Atmarama. Atmarama is also does that point. Swayambhu. Paribhu, Swayambhu, and Apapaviddham and Shuddham are described. The Shuddham is also, we can say that whatever comes out of the material things are very impure, right? Like when we sleep, all the senses, all the 9 holes of the body become impure. But whereas from the Lord's pores comes the universe. Lord's pores comes everything. And there is nothing like impure from the Lord's body. Every part of his body is pure and transcendent compared to the material living entities. So that is how he is Shuddham, is very pure, antiseptic. And Apapaviddham is, we learned about the 2 examples, like anything and whatever comes in contact with the Lord also becomes purified. Just like the 9:30:31, where Krishna says that sometimes the devotees can fall accidentally. But because they are continuing to associate with the Lord, their fall down will be reinstated from that fall down eventually. So don't consider such devotees as fallen. That is what Krishna says. Anybody wants to recite those 2 verses?
Apichit Sudarachara Vijatamam Ananivak Sadha Eva Mantabi Samyak Vivashitaisha Kshipram Bhavati Dharmatma Shashvat Shantim Nigachati Konte Pratijani Nami Bhakta Pranashati.
Yeah. Apiche Sudharachara, but seemingly in faults, sometimes when they fall down, but that doesn't happen. That is because they're associating with the Lord who is Apapavittam himself. So they are the devotees also become Apapavittam. And as well as there's no sin attached to the Lord when he's dancing with the gopis, because the gopis are his reflection. They are his internal potency. What is the sin in playing with one's own internal potency? Right? So that's yeah, questions?
Yes, Mataji, so many. This is very heavy. Okay, so I'll start with the first one. This last paragraph only, because this is what we read recently. How do you explain it to a mundane person and to a mundane mind that even if something that might appear to be sinful is not sinful for God? I mean, if I'm talking to somebody outside, how do I explain this? How, because I have no words to explain this in simple language. For example, something as simple as, Rasa dance with gopis. To be honest, I myself don't understand it yet. I'm waiting to reach that canto in Bhagavatam and to understand it properly. But I don't know. So how do you explain this in very simple words? Instead of just asking someone to accept that, no sin touches him, he's self-purifying without saying these things.
Yeah, we gave it the example of a small child in the beginning. A small child plays with his own reflection in the mirror. Did you hear that example?
No, Mataji, sorry, I don't recall it. I was there from the beginning, though. I don't know.
You came in the beginning, so
Yes.
we discussed that in the beginning. That a small child plays with his own reflection in the mirror, like not knowing what it is. He becomes very amused looking himself, and he starts playing, clapping, and whatever he does, the mirror is also doing. So, is there any sin in doing that? Isn't that so cute? The little boy is doing that. He's just playing. There's no problem with that play. So similarly, the gopis are the internal potencies of the Lord. They're in his internal reflections. So when he is playing with his own internal Swarup Shaktis, what is the problem? There's no problem. And first of all, this kind of topics, this kind of examples, we should not bring it up with these materialistic ordinary people, first of all. This is for the devotees to understand. How to understand is for the devotees. If you are bringing this kind of conversation in your regular conversations with the people who are conditioned souls, who have not even understood that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or they don't even chant, there's no glory to such conversation. We should not talk about these kind of things with the regular people. Okay? But this is for our understanding that since we are practicing, we can understand. We are reading Shastra. So in the Shastra, everything comes up. Nothing is hidden. So everything comes up. Even there are even higher Shastras, we talk about the deeper aspects. So then, yeah, this is an example. There is internal, there are his potencies. So he's just playing with them in that way.
Right. And so this was about something that appears sinful, but then there is also something that we state about purifying strength. What does it exactly mean, having the purifying strength? I know there's an example of sun given, but I'm not able to comprehend it properly.
So his purifying is, there is no, the example is clear from the suns. Like sun can go in all those places and he can purify it. Okay. So looking at the examples of Krishna's stealing butter from the Vrindavan pastimes. So Krishna is, doesn't Krishna have food at his home? Mother Yashoda is giving him more food that he can digest, more number of times than anybody can feed. So he's constantly being fed. There is no hunger in his stomach. Yet he goes to each gopis home and steals. Right? He goes and steals. That's because, and then they say that we want to give him milk and butter, so he doesn't have to steal. We just give him. He says, I don't want your butter and milk or anything. Yet he comes and steals. So he likes that stealing. He likes to eat by stealing. And that is because he's the owner of everything, right? He is not in one sense stealing, but he's giving that rasa to his devotees to enjoy, to become pleased, to become amused by this behavior. So by one activity, he does many other things, right? It's not like when he comes down also, he does multiple things. He gives, he reciprocates with his devotees. He pleases them in the way they want it from him. He also kills demons. He also satisfies many other material things that many people are looking. So many things he does. So from that, he's Shuddha. He's nothing is contaminating him. He's the owner of something. If he's the owner, if you put something in one room and you have things kept in same thing probably divided into so many places. Now you will take it from room, or you put some snacks at your desk, some snacks in your kitchen. You're eating from here. Are you stealing because you're not gone into kitchen because they are here? You are the owner of it. You can do it wherever you want. This is your home. You can sit wherever you want and eat and do whatever you like. Is that called any sin associated with that?
No, Mataji. So, but this one is again, when we talk about stealing and all of that, it is more about because everything belongs to him, even by stealing, he's not committing any sin.
Yes. Yet he's pleasing his devotees and he's also getting pleasure. He wants to derive some pleasure. He wants to get some pleasure out of things that happens, and he wants to reciprocate with his devotees. Because
So,
they don't want him to come to their home, yet they want him to. That's why they keep some butter and milk in their home, so that maybe he'll come. Although they complain to Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda tells, maybe small boy, poor child, give him something to eat. They keep for him, yet he comes and steals. So this is a rasa. We need to understand it from the rasa point of view. If you only look at it from the textbook point of view, it might not be appealing.
Palak, if you don't mind, I also had the same question. So, Mataji, on the other side, there are things that the Lord does to set an example for everyone. Like when he was traveling from to Dwarka, then he was doing his meditation in the morning just to set an example for people. So those things are done for setting an example, but there are other things. Can people not take the wrong examples as well? Is it not?
We cannot take
Is
all
it not a
examples
risk?
what Krishna does. Krishna has stolen butter, and he's also stolen the hearts of the living entities. Can we steal the hearts of other living entities? He has stolen butter, but can we steal their hearts and make them attracted to us? He has stolen the garments of the gopis. Yes. And he's also supplied the unlimited garment to Draupadi. Can we do that? Can anybody do that? Unlimited garment has been supplied to Draupadi. We cannot do that. He has lifted the Govardhan hill. Can anybody imitate that? No. So there are things that have to be, and we cannot imitate Krishna's activities. That is why, to set the example in the right way, he comes as Lord Ram, where he will not do any supernatural. He does if you show supernatural things, but then he is more human being. He is setting examples how an ideal son, ideal king, ideal brother, ideal husband have to behave and to conduct their life. Yet, and that is the difference between Lord Ram and Lord Krishna, right? So he is ideal person, and in the Krishna's pastimes, he doesn't consider he can do whatever he likes. There's no ideal thing. Whatever he does becomes the Shastra. Dharmam tu Bhagavastu Shastram Bhagavat Pranitam. Dharmam tu Shastrat Bhagavat Pranitam. Lord Yamaraj says that whatever Krishna defines, that becomes the Shastra. That is Shastra. So we cannot imitate Krishna's pastimes. We need to follow the acharyas who are following, who have understood him internally and understood and given the answers. That is why we have the explanations of what he does, why he does in the Vrindavan pastimes. Even the boiling of milk, there is a reason why it happens. Because the milk is also very consciousness. It has this consciousness, so it has its purpose, and it does it for some service to the Lord. If not, if there is no service, that's a difference between the devotee and a non-devotee, right? Devotee is only hankering for the service. Non-devotees or the impersonalists, they want to go no service place. This is impersonal Brahmajyoti. When there is no service, it's as good as like it's throttling someone's neck because there is no service. Devotee feels like that. They cannot go to such places when there is no service. We want to be in the service. So these are seeming contradictions of the law. Any other questions or convince anybody has more questions on this or still need time to get convinced?
Mataji, I just thought a little bit more about it, about the purifying thing. So what I feel is that how he's purifying is he's the source of all the Vedas, all the scriptures that are in a way purifying for people. And also, I think it's his mercy that kind of can burn up your sins as well. So that is how I could just comprehend something about purifying. Is this correct understanding?
Yes.
Yeah.
Still there.
Got it.
Definitely.
So one more question, Mataji. This is from the very first paragraph that we read about Krishna being formless, right? Where we say his body and the soul are the same. Everything is same. He can do anything. So when we say he's formless, I'm not sure. I mean, formless is very vague. I mean, it means, is there anything? If whatever we know has a form, it can be gigantic, even, but a gigantic thing also has a form. So the formless word is very confusing. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm just trying to comprehend it. And if his true form is actually formless, why do we try to create a relationship, basically one of those five rasas with his personal form? That's what I understand. It can be wrong. That
We
we
did
try
say
to
his
think
true
of.
form is formless. The Sachidananda Vigraha. We never said that his true form is formless. He's a
Sorry. Mhm.
to your point, what you just said, his true form is formless. He is formless, is Akaya. We learned from this verse. Akaya, we gave an example of akarma. This is the beginning when I spoke that karma is work. When you add a to it, becomes result and like no negative result to that, or no positive result or no negative result. That means there is some result which is that result where you don't get to reap its benefit in a material way is akarma. That means you're getting a spiritual benefit for that, which you will not know how to experience it now, but you'll experience it later or even in this life. So similarly, the Lord doesn't have any material form that we have perceived, that we know of, with this kind of hands, this kind of legs. The Lord has similar when he comes down, but it is transcendental. Like from Bhagavad Gita also we saw, his two-founded form is original form, similar to what we know, we have experience of. That is, but it is transcendental. It is not material. That is akaya. Kaya means form. Akaya means formless, which is not material form.
So Mataji, can we say that Krishna came to this world in a form that we could comprehend, but even the Shastras cannot explain something that we cannot comprehend. There is no reference in the Shastras to talk about his actual transcendental form.
His actual transcendental form is described right from the beginning in the Bhagavad Gita also. It's a two-handed form, is the original transcendental form. We'll read a verse from Bhagavatam.
Hmm.
Am I sharing that? Probably not. Let me share. This is from 10. Ten 21 5. Okay, 10th canto. Yeah, 10:21 5. बर्हापीडं नटवरवपोर्कर्णयो कर्णिकारं कपिशं वैजयन्तीं च मालम् रन्ध्रान् वेणोरधरसु सुद्यया पूरयान् गोपवृन्दे वृन्दारण्यं स्वपदरमणं प्राविशद्गीतकीर्ति. Wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue karnika flowers on his ears, a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and the Vaijayanti garland, Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. This is the Gopi Venu Geet. I think that chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna's form is described as a Natavaravapu. He's a drama artist because he's a blue body, peacock feather, yellow garment, ornaments as gold glittering, Vaijayanti garland. This is his transcendental form as the greatest dancers as he entered. So, from these verses and many such, I'm only showing you this one here, but there are many such verses that speak Krishna's body is this. This is how he dresses. This is his original form when he comes down. We need to understand this, move our direction, our thoughts in this direction. How to understand in this direction, not have that initial thought like, does it have a body? Does he have two hands or four hands or number of hands or no hands? Our conversations, our thoughts to direct to understand Krishna's form in Vrindavan. Appreciate this. From here start. Because you are practicing, right? Practitioners will not have the form. Does he really have a form or not? We need to understand his glory from what has been described in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right from the beginning, it says, Krishna is the personality of Godhead and we are reciprocated so many exchanges. In Bhagavad Gita, we are only talking about his Sambandha. Sambandha, understanding what is Krishna's position from our position. Where do we stand with him in relationship with him? It's very, very basic what we have in Bhagavad Gita. When we go into Srimad Bhagavatam, it is all rasa between the devotees, exchanging the rasa between the devotees, or each one glorifying the Lord in their own way. So many prayers, right from Canto 1 onwards. How the sages of Vrindavan, Naimisharanya, seated and hearing the glories of the Lord. And so many exchanges by the devotees in Canto 1 itself. So that is when we read Bhagavatam, it is giving us that rasa, the taste of how to experience, how to look at Krishna, how to approach Krishna, how to glorify, how to pray.
Right, Mataji, got it. Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to the next verse. We have very less time, but we will cover. Mantra 9. which is the next section. And even this becomes very confusing. Actually, Sri Upanishad is that kind of literature, right? It's not straightforward. We need to understand it. It's not straightforwardly telling. Now, nobody is like all for it. Like they're not giving the explanation in a very straightforward way. We need to understand it from the purports of Srila Prabhupada and Acharyas. So this verse, 9th verse, is from the other section which we spoke in the beginning. Let me quickly share that section breakdown. Introduction, invocation, mantra 1 to 3, 4 to 8, which is finished, vision of the Mahabharat, 9 to 11, from here onwards, 3 verses, compares knowledge of nations and the respective destinations of the followers of each. So if this section became little confusing, the next section even becomes more confusing because of the way it is written. So 9th verse talks about Vidya and Avidya. Andam tama pravishanti e vidyamupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yayu vidyayam rataha. Anyone wants to repeat?
I can do it, Mataji.
Yeah. Andam tama pravishanti
Andam tama pravishanti
ye vidyam upasate
ye vidyam upasate
tato bhuya ivate tamo
tato bhuya ivate tamo
yayu vidyayam rataha.
yayu vidyayam rataha.
Okay, thank you. Synonyms: Andam, gross ignorance; Tama, darkness; Pravishanti, enter into; Ye, those who; Avidyam, nations; Upasate, worship; Tata, than that; Bhuya, still more; Iva, like they; Tama, darkness; Ye, those who; You also, Vidyayam, in the culture of knowledge; Rataha, engaged. Translation: Those who engage in the culture of nascent activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. So here they are saying those who are engaged in nascent activities are bad or worse, or they go into darkest nature. But worst compared to them are those who are engaged in so-called knowledge. How confusing can it become? So nascent activity is avidya, which is regularly known as knowledge that is away from, taking us this knowledge away from Krishna is a nascent activity. So that activity brings us to the darkest region of ignorance. But the so-called knowledge, it is said, is still worst. So what does it mean? The knowledge, vidya and avidya. Avidya is ignorance, is definitely problematic, is dangerous. What is the simple example of avidya? Going on the path of sense gratification, not knowing where it will take us. So that is dangerous because we can glide down to the lowest regions and become taken birth into the animal kingdom or in the human kingdom itself, but in the lower phases when we are not able to reach Krishna or easily approach Krishna. So that is nascent activities, karma kandik, avidya. Now worse than then are the so-called culture of so-called knowledge. What is this so-called knowledge? The knowledge that we are getting from the scriptures, which is the impersonal knowledge. If we get to the impersonal knowledge, it is more dangerous than the avidya, which is bringing us. So what does it mean? Impersonalist is a jnani, is moving away from Krishna's personal form. That jnani, his position even worse than a karmi. Karmi is getting negative reaction because of the karma, sense gratification. Yet, there is an opportunity for him to receive some message about Krishna in the karmi form also. Even the plants, trees, the animals, they are hearing the message of Krishna. Somehow they are hearing. So they are getting purified. Their Sukruti is kept intact. So it will reap in some life at some point. So that is still better compared to the knowledge that this Gyanis develop about and think and establish the Lord's position as impersonal. That is the worst kind of knowledge. So there is avidya, which is lack of knowledge, and there is vidya, which is the so-called knowledge. Within the so-called knowledge, also there is avidya, which is the dangerous avidya. So we'll read the purport and we get to that. I'll read the first paragraph. This mantra offers a comparative study of vidya and avidya. Avidya or ignorance is undoubtedly dangerous, but vidya or knowledge is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. Mistaken avidya is even more dangerous. Sorry, mistaken vidya. This mantra of Sri Upanishad is more applicable today than at any time in the past. Modern civilization has advanced considerably in the field of mass education, but the result is that people are more unhappy than ever before because of the stress placed on material advancement to the exclusion of the most important part of life, the spiritual aspect. So if you look at the impersonal knowledge, which is part of the vidya, is dangerous compared to avidya, when there is no knowledge of the Lord. But compared to this avidya, the vidya under the avidya, which is the modern vidya, modern education, which is part of the avidya. Anything that takes away from the Lord is avidya, right? These are two broad categories. Anything that takes away from the Lord is avidya. Anything that brings us and the knowledge of the Vedas is vidya, if you consider that. Within the vidya, the dangerous part of it is to understand the Lord from the impersonal point of view. That is dangerous. Now, in the avidya category, the sense gratificators, people who are trying to, or illiterates, avidya, they don't have any knowledge about anything. They're illiterates. Within that, to illiterate, if you give knowledge, modern education, what happens? They go develop within the modern way or the modern education, which is to build big things, taking away from Krishna. Even in that, the worst category, as per what Prabhupada is saying, the modern is using the education or the technology that we have learned to harm people, to rob people, steal their money, and take their lives. Within the avidya category, there is vidya, and that is most dangerous. So two dangerous categories of vidya. So both of all of that you're talking about here in this verse is about negative only. Vidya, which is part of their Vedas, not taken, if it is misguided and not understanding Krishna's form, is avidya, dangerous. And within the avidya category, there may be vidya, which is the modern education, that is even dangerous. So everything that is hinting in this verse is about Nishant only, Nishant's lack of knowledge only. The culture of Nishant activities will take us down. The worse than those are the so-called knowledge. So let's read the purport fully. Maybe we'll pause whenever there is any question or anything to be explained. Someone wants to read?
I can read, Mataji.
Go ahead.
This mantra offers a comparative study of Vidya and Avidya. Avidya or ignorance is undoubtedly dangerous.
I already read that first paragraph.
Sorry, Mataji.
Next.
So, as far as Vidya is concerned, the first mantra is explained very clearly that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, and that forgetfulness of this fact is ignorance. The more a man forgets this fact of life, the more he is in darkness. In view of this, a godless civilization directed towards the so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization in which the masses of people are less educated.
Yeah, less educated means illiterates. Better compared to advanced education, because that can harm the entire civilization, mass destructions. Yeah, continue. Someone.
Sure, Mataji. On the different classes of men, karmis, jnanis, and yogis, the karmis are those who are engaged in the activities of sense gratification. In the modern civilization, 99.9% of the people are engaged in the activities of sense gratification under the flags of industrialism, economic development, altruism, political activism, and so on. All these activities are more or less based on satisfaction of the senses to the exclusion of the kind of God consciousness described in the first mantra.
The karmis who are engaged in the sense gratification are not understanding the presence of the Lord. Ishavasham, they are not understanding the Lord is a proprietor because they want to enjoy separately from Krishna. So that is this category. Continue, someone? Or if you want to continue itself, Mataji.
Thank you,
Indeed,
Mataji.
Mataji. Sorry.
Someone else? Yeah.
In the language of Bhagavad Gita, people who are engaged in gross sense gratification are muras, asses. The ass is a symbol of stupidity. Those who simply engage in the profitless pursuit of the sense gratification are worshipping avidya, according to Sri Isupniषad. And those who play the role of helping this sort of civilization in the name of educational advancement are actually doing more than those who are on the platform of gross sense gratification. The advancement of learning by a godless people is as dangerous as a valuable jewel on the hood of a cobra. A cobra decorated with a valuable jewel is more dangerous than one not decorated. In the Hari Bhakti Sudhodaya 3.11.12, the advancement of education by a godless people is compared to decorations on a dead body. In India, as in many other countries, some people follow the custom of leading a procession with a decorated dead body for the pleasure of the lamenting relatives. In the same way, modern civilization is a patchwork of activities meant to cover the perpetual miseries of material existence. All such activities are aimed towards sense gratification. But above the senses is the mind, and above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul. Thus, the aim of the real education should be self-realization, realization of the spiritual values of the soul. Any education which does not lead to such realization must be considered avidya or nescience. And to culture such nescience means to go down to the darkest region of ignorance.
So, the modern education is very dangerous compared to no education, because the modern education can cause mass destruction, and which is very dangerous. Just as the cobra has a dangerous cobra having a jewel on the hood is more dangerous. It's already dangerous, and you put if there is a jewel on a cobra's head, that means it is even more poisonous. So that is how this modern education can become. And how the godless people are advancing towards they are having education which is God-like, just like the decoration of a dead body. Dead body, if you decorate it, what is the point of decorating a dead body? When the body is alive, you decorate it, there is some meaning. But what is the point of decorating a dead body? Just to give some pleasure to the lamenting devotees, so that, oh, okay, fine, last just we can see the glimpse in a nice, but that's the last anyway. So that is how the modern education is, a patchwork of activities meant to cover the perpetual miseries of the material existence. So if they are only covered towards the soul, the senses, which are the lowest form, because beyond the soul, the senses is the mind. Beyond the mind is through intelligence, and above that is the soul. If you are not aiming by your education, if you are not aiming towards the soul, then it is the lowest form. The sense gratification, if you are teaching people to be more sense gratifiers, then that is the lowest form of education. That is avidya. Yeah. Continue.
According to the Bhagavad Gita, mistaken mundane educators are known as Veda Vedarata and Mayaya Pratagyana. They may also be atheistic demons, the lowest of men. Those who are Veda Vadarata pose themselves as very learned in the Vedic literature, but unfortunately they are completely diverted from the purpose of the Vedas. In Bhagavad Gita 15.15, it is said that the purpose of the Vedas is to know the personality of Godhead, but these Veda Vadarata men are not at all interested in the personality of Godhead. On the contrary, they are fascinated by such fruitive results as the attainment of heaven.
So in the Bhagavad Gita 7:15, we know, Namam Drishkitana Moda, Prapadyante Naradama, Maya Aparahata Jnana Asrim Bhamashita. We know they are miscreants. In 242, which is their intelligence is many branched. Veda Batarata, Veda Vadarata. Those are, and the Maya Aparahata Jnanis, they are mistaken mundane educators, as described in these two verses. They are completely diverted from the purpose. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedes cha sarver ahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda videva chaham. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15:15 that I am the comparer of the Vedas, I am the knower of the Vedas. So the purpose of the Vedas is to know me. But if you go against that and become Veda Vadarata, then that is contrary to the purpose of the Vedas. So there is no point in that. Someone please read.
Should I read next, Mataji?
Yeah.
As stated in Mantra 1, we should know that the personality of Godhead is the proprietor of everything, and that we must be satisfied with our allotted portions of the necessities of life. The purpose of all Vedic literature is to awaken this God consciousness in the forgetful living being. And this same purpose is presented in various ways in the different scriptures of the world for the understanding of a foolish mankind. Thus, the ultimate purpose of all religions is to bring one back to Godhead.
Yeah. Someone continue.
I can read, Mataji.
But go ahead.
Okay. But the way the Vedarata people, instead of realizing that the purpose of the Vedas is to revive the forgetful soul's lost relationship with the personality of Godhead, take it for granted that such side issues as the attainment of heavenly pleasures for sense gratification, the lust for which causes their material bondage in the first place, are the ultimate end of the Vedas. Such people misguide others by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. Sometimes they even condemn the Puranas, which are authentic Vedic explanations for laymen. The Vedarata give their own explanations of the Vedas, neglecting the authority of great teachers, acharyas. They also tend to raise some unscrupulous persons from among themselves and present them as a leading exponent of Vedic knowledge. Such Vedaratas are especially condemned in the mantras by the very appropriate Sanskrit word Vidyayam Rataha. Vidyayam refers to the study of the Vedas because the Vedas are the origin of all knowledge, Vidya, and Rataha means those engaged. Vidyayam Rataha thus means those engaged in the study of the Vedas. The so-called students of the Vedas are condemned herein because they are ignorant of the actual purpose of the Vedas on account of their disobeying the acharyas. Such Vedaratas, searching out meaning in every word of the Vedas to suit their own purposes. They do not know that the Vedic literature is a collection of extraordinary books that can be understood only through the chain of disciplic succession.
So, what is the Veda Vadarata's interpretation of the Vedic knowledge, the Vedas? So they come up with the impersonal, that suits their senses or suit their intelligence. For example, this word itself, Akayam, if you looked at. Akayam, Prabhupada's interpretation is unembodied or does not have a material embodiment. That is a devotee's interpretation. When an impersonalist looks at the same verse and says that he is without a body itself, and how gross it can become. Because if someone reads that and goes with that thought that the Lord doesn't have body, and everywhere else that they speak about, the Lord says Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, because he doesn't have a body, he will not be. Why is he saying this? There is some other person inside the body of Krishna who is saying that. Is not what Krishna is telling. Someone else, whoever it is, we don't know. And he's an ordinary person, some mystic, great yogi who came in this world to do some magic tricks. So it can lead to that kind of conclusion. just by interpreting one word in this way. So these are the people who are Veda Vada Rathas. They give their own mundane interpretation. But we should not go to them, but we should go to the acharyas in the disciplic succession who are personalists, great acharyas. Right? So then that right interpretation. And also Krishna says, I am the source of all that comes from me, everything emanates. They have some mundane interpretation to that as well. So looking at it from impersonal aspect can be very dangerous to the living entities, because Mahaprabhu says it's better to live with the snake in the same cave. With a cobra, you can live in the same cave, but not with an impersonalist. Why? Can anybody give an interpretation of this?
Essentially, living with an impersonalist will influence you and spoil your knowledge.
And what happens as effect of that?
Staying with an impersonalist, essentially you start believing Krishna is formless, and that actually Prabhupada calls that is an offense to Krishna. You go towards Mayavad, and Mayavadis are essentially offenders to Krishna.
As impact of that, what happens?
Mm.
And what happens as impact of living with a cobra?
I mean, you lose your life, but at least your consciousness is not spoiled.
Right.
Or you don't offend Krishna.
Right. So when you live with a cobra, it can bite you and you lose a life for this life. But your consciousness is not impacted. When you live with an impersonalist, that impersonalist can change your consciousness for life after life. How dangerous that can be. For life after life, will continue in the same conception, because this is the same thought, same conceptions you'll carry to the next life. Vayur Gandha Nivashayat. As the mind carries aroma, the same conceptions go into the next destination and you develop in the same way. So this is even more dangerous. That is why it is more dangerous compared to the jnanis, compared to the sense gratificators who just simply understand that I don't know anything else. They're innocent sense gratification, for example. So they can just enjoy for this life and that's it. But then they will get a chance. If they continue in this way, they'll get a chance. Karmis may get a chance in this life because of some words that they would have said, they may get a human form of life. And in that, they may continue there. But the Gyanis, because of their impersonal understanding, they'll go back to impersonal conception, which is Brahmajyoti. From there, what to do? No service. From there is no service, because they've understood only Lord as not having any form, cannot take our service. We cannot render any service. So they there, but then because the soul is Anandamaya Abhyasat, it wants some bliss. We are bliss seekers. Anandamaya Abhyasat. So we want that. Because of that, we cannot be satisfied in that. We come down. And come down, go through the same cycle. Can become anything. Can glide down from there. That is very dangerous. Okay, go ahead and someone read.
Okay, I'll read Mataji then. The Maya Aparita Jnana class of men.
Here.
One must approach a bona fide spiritual master in order to understand the transcendental message of the Vedas. That is the direction of Mukunda Upanishad 1.2.12. These Vedvadarata people, however, have their own acharyas who are not in the chain of transcendental succession. Thus, they progress into the darkest region of ignorance by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. They fall even further into ignorance than those who have no knowledge of the Vedas at all.
They can fall down into Mundaka Upanishad says Vedata. They give some interpretation on their own, which can bring them down. Yeah. Last point.
I'll read Mataji.
Good.
The Maya Aparhata Jnana class of men are self-made gods. Such men think that they themselves are God and that there is no need of worshipping any other god. They will agree to worship an ordinary man if he happens to be rich, but they will never worship the personality of Godhead. Such men, unable to recognize their own foolishness, never consider how is it that God can be entrapped by Maya, his own illusory energy. If God were ever entrapped by Maya, Maya would be more powerful than God. Such men say that God is all powerful, but they do not consider that if He is all powerful, there is no possibility of His being overpowered by Maya. These self-made gods cannot answer all these questions very clearly. They are simply satisfied to have become God themselves. Hare Krishna.
So, the other type of men is Maya Bharata Gyanis. We learn from 7:15. That their intelligence is stolen away by Maya. And they consider the Lord to be Maya. They are themselves in Maya, but they think Lord is Maya. And yet, and they are overpowered Maya, they also think the Lord is less. They bring down Lord's position to themselves, who is all powerful. And they do not consider that he is all powerful and he can also be overcome by Maya. That's what they think. And yet they ask for, and they don't even approach the Lord, right? These are the Maya Bharata Gyanis. They are self-made gods. Cannot answer these questions. How come they become affected by Maya? Because if they are gods or bringing down the Lord's position, then they should not be affected by Maya, but they are affected. Illusory energy. So then it is very hard for them to describe anything. So this has already been described by Krishna in various Bhagavad Gita verses already. So we're just corroborating that fact from a different scripture, which is the Shruti, part of the Shruti Ishopanishad. All these are already given by Krishna, right? Isn't it? All the purports, in every line, Prabhupada is quoting a Bhagavad Gita verse. Any questions on this? That means no questions. Okay. We'll pause then today. 7:15. Tomorrow, next week, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. And on 30th, we are having a class in the evening, as we discussed. 27th, 28th, and 30th, we will have classes.
So, sorry, Mataji, you said we'll have class 27, 28, and after that?
30th.
Okay, and then we are done, right? By
Then
September 30th.
4th and 5th.
And the exam is on, the CBA is on October 19th.
Right. We'll have so much time to prepare.
And
In
the
between, I will
OBA,
give the
Mataji, when will you give us the second question?
I will give. In between, I will give. Okay. Thank you all very much. Manchakalpatarpyascha kripasindhubheva cha patitanam Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Pranams.
Thank you.